be covering how to warp letters, and we're going to be warping this word massive, and how to kind of create kind of a 3D effect with the blend tool. So let's begin. So what I have here is I've typed out the word massive, and I've used the font Impact. Okay. Now you may have Impact on your system. If you do, that's a great font to use for this. But you want to use a nice, thick, bold font. Okay. And so one of the things we're going to do before we do anything is let's go in here and see about kind of tightening up our kerning. So this is, I haven't turned it to outline yet. So we're going to actually go in here between these two S's and bring them a little closer. So I'm holding down my Alt or my Option key, and then I'm going to click on my left arrow. So that will bring that closer together. I'm going to bring the eye a little closer together. We want these kind of close together here, okay? I might even bring this E in because I know kind of what's going to happen here. Because this we're going to really play with here. Whoops, undo. Okay. And then bring this over just a little bit more here. So we're going to tighten this up quite a bit here. Now, I think that should be good enough. And we might want to actually see about tightening up between that. We don't want them quite touching, but we want them really close if possible, okay? So now what I'm going to do is we're going to take our text and we're going to warp it, okay? And up here, if you have your control palette open, and by the way, didn't cover this before, so this is our control palette, okay? And in case it's off, the way you get it on is you go to Window and you go to Control. Okay, I'm also using my workspace is set up to Essentials Classic. Okay, and I don't want to go back because I like how I'm not going to go and click on Essentials Classic again or reset it because I have all my palettes out the way I want them to be right now. But anyway, that's what I'm using, and that's why I can see this right here, this Make Envelope. Okay, so let's go over here and we're going to do basically that one. We got arc lower. Now you can play around with some different ones here, but this is just good to know about. You know, if you ever need to arc your text, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this exercise. But I'm going to do the arc lower. You can see all these different effects here. You know what you can get and manipulate here. But we're going to do this arc lower here. We'll make it a little greater. Okay. So we're just playing around with that. Now once we get that done, we're going to click OK. Now let's go to outline mode just to see what we have here. Oops, cancel. Command Y. Now right now it's invisible because we've got this warp on it. Now we want to be able to work with this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go and we're not it won't allow us to create outlines once we put a warp on this. But what it will let us do is it will let us expand it. So up under object is the word expand. Okay? And we're going to go click OK, and it will expand our letters. And so now let's take a look. Now they're individual shapes. Okay, so let's take these shapes, and we'll just do Command C and Command B. And what that is, or Control C and Control B, because and that is if you have a PC. If you have a Mac, you want to use Command. So anyway, what that will do is it will paste a copy of it behind itself, and we'll just move this up a little bit like this. Okay, and I'm going to make this a slightly different color here. So let's make this, and I'm going to just check. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this kind of a lighter blue. So I'm going to lower the black here like this, and then add some cyan to it like this. Maybe lower that black a little bit more. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I am actually going to make these letters a little smaller. So I'm going to use my main selection tool here, and I'm going to hold down my Alt key, my Option key here, and I'm going to hold down my Shift key, and we're just going to make this just a little smaller like that, and then we're just going to move this up a little bit more. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a blend. Now mind you, I made a copy of this text here, and we're going to actually paste it again. So you don't want to copy anything else right now once you've done all this. So we're going to get our blend tool, and we're going to click on the end of this E. Okay. And then I'm going to go back, and you should get a plus sign, hopefully. If not, then you should click and then come back up here and get a plus sign. But you want to click on the same exact points. And what this will do is this will create a blend. Now, right now, it's a choppy blend. And so let's go to and double click our blend tool here. And I've got specified steps. Let's do smooth color and see if it improves it at all. Not really. Well, let's up the specified steps. So we're going to up the specified steps to, I don't know, let's go 120. Let's see what that looks like. And then hit preview. And see that? We get kind of a gradient in between that. So that's like, it's like creating a gradient between these letters, so it makes them kind of look more three-dimensional here. And we'll click off of it and zoom in here and see if we've got enough of a blend here so we don't see any stripes. Okay, if we are seeing stripes, see, I'm beginning to see just a few, then what we can do is we can double click our blend tool again, as long as this object these two things are selected here. Actually, it's one thing now. It's a blend between two shapes. And we're going to double click it, and let's bring it up to maybe 140. Okay, and preview it. Now you may have, depending on how big you're making your letters, you may have to go much higher here. You can go 200. Okay, we'll preview it. And it's not, I'm not seeing any difference, but this will be nice and smooth if this was to print. And so let's zoom out here. And so we've got kind of now one of the things I want to talk about, and this applies to gradients too, is I've got black here. It's blending between black and a blue. And in between, I kind of get this ugly gray. I don't know if you can kind of see that, but in yours you might see kind of, it's a gray between the transition between the colors. Well, if I go in here, and I'm going to use my group selection tool, okay, and I'm going to click on, well, actually, I want to click on all these, okay? I want to click on these first set of, I'm holding down my shift key so I can get them all, okay? I am going to take that, and I'm going to actually add cyan to the black. And when I do that, it might make it a little darker there, but the transition is going to look nicer because it's going to be a blue in between there. Now we can go in here and select these back letters, and I'm using that group selection tool, and I'm holding down my shift key and getting each one of these individual letters here. And what I'm going to do is let's take the black out more so that we got a much more defined effect. Okay, now that looks nice. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to do is I am going to do Command F, because if you remember, the last thing we copied was the text here, these letters here, or these letter forms, since they're now shapes. So we're doing Command F. We don't see any difference because it's black, but let's change the color of that. So we get a nice color, you know? And see, this is a cool effect here that we can get by having text like this. Now, if we want to, and I don't think I did this on my assignment sheet example, but we could put a gradient in this. Okay, so we can have a gradient going from, and let's drag this color. We'll drag this color into where the black is at. Okay, it's going to add to it. Now I always double check up under here. There we go. Take that out and pull that out. And by the way, what I'm doing is, just so that in case I'm working too fast here, is I'm moving this over, and it reveals that there's another one of these sliders up underneath that's black, and you see that ugly transition. You get this gray in between them. I'm just dragging that out, okay? And then I'm going to drag this color into the white, and I'm going to drag it over. And for each time I do this, for some reason, it's not making another slider like it does when I do the black one. I don't know why that is, but that's what I'm getting there. So I like that color, but let's make one of these colors a little darker, okay? So we'll up the magenta here. Now you could use green or something, or blue perhaps, but we want a lighter color so the text can show up in the front there. Maybe what I might do is drop the yellow a little bit here on this. Now, one last thing I'm going to do here is, and this was something I was trying to get my students in the digital illustration class to understand, is right now the gradient that I have is going over each individual letter, and it's going from light to dark, light to dark, light to dark, and so on and so on. It doesn't look nice, okay? We want the gradient going over all these letters. And if anything, I don't want them going across this way. I want them coming from up underneath. So what I'm going to do is, let's get our gradient tool. G is a keyboard shortcut. And I'm going to click at the bottom of this and drag it up. Okay? So we get a nice effect like that. See that? That looks really nice. I'm holding down my shift key so it keeps it going straight forward. Now we could go the opposite way. Okay? So it goes like this. I kind of like this. Okay? And we can, it gets a nice gradient in there. All right? So what it's doing is it's applying that gradient to over all the letters, and it's going in the same direction, okay? And that makes our job so much easier, okay? It's because, otherwise, what you've got is you've got each individual letter having a gradient on it. Anyway, that will conclude this lecture. And you want to get something that looks kind of like that, or I'm going to click over here. This is what I've been looking at here. And see, yeah, I did put a gradient on that. I didn't remember, okay? So anyway, that will end this tutorial.